first question is, where you originally from? Where were you born?
Well, I was born in Panama City. I grew up in Fort Myers, Florida.
Okay.
Um, from the time I was 3 on. So yeah, Fort Myers, Florida.
Okay.
Florida guy.
Okay. Next question. Who were your role models? Who were your influential people, like growing up in Fort Myers, like that you looked up to, that inspired you to do what you do?
Um, well, there were a couple guys around the neighborhood. There's one guy that went to my high school before I was there. Actually went to Florida State. A guy by the name of Eric Riley. He ended up playing cornerback. He was the cornerback at Florida State before Dion. So it was a Fort Myers guy that particular corner position for 7 years. And Eric was he grew up in the same projects that I did. And, I went to school with his sister, and he was just a great leader for everybody. He never got in trouble, and he was a great athlete, great student, just a great person. And we're still good friends now to this day. And then I guess I was a Magic Johnson, a Charles Barkley fan, kind of like Bo Jackson. Um, I guess those were the guys that I don't know, idolized, but I liked it. I enjoyed watching them play, and I kind of wanted to play like them. I actually thought I was going to be a basketball player. I thought I was going to be a lot taller than I was, but didn't work out that way.
Okay. Next question is, other than playing football, did you play other sports other than football? High school?
Yeah, in high school I played 3 years of varsity basketball, and I was a 4 year letterman in track. I finished was it third in the state in shot put my senior year. So yeah, I played multiple sports.
Okay. Other than Miami, what other schools reached out to you and looked to you to like play for their schools? Were there any other schools, football programs that were reaching out to you to play for their program?
Um, well, I took my visits to Georgia, Florida, Minnesota. I took an unofficial visit to Florida State, and then I turned down a few schools. I had Florida, Florida State, Miami, Georgia, Alabama, um, Ohio State, Notre Dame. It was about like 35 altogether. But I kind of knew it was going to be a Florida school. It was going to be Miami or Florida. I wasn't leaving the state.
Okay. Who recruited you to Miami? Like, what was that experience like? Going to Miami. Like, who reached out to you to go to Miami?
Who reached out to me?
Yeah, as far as like recruiting you out of to go to Miami. Like, who was that guy?
Oh, well, we had some guys on the team. We had two guys, Donnie Ellis and Warren Williams, who were starters, and I knew both of them. But I just, I like Miami. I like all the Florida schools, but I like Miami. I had guys from my high school, two guys from my high school who were at Florida, and they were my hosts there, and it's just that Miami kind of fit me more. They didn't really influence me. I really just kind of made the decision on my own. I had Melvin Brett and Tobin Bain as they were me and my quarterback hosts on a recruiting trip, and they showed us a good time, and I just liked the city.
Okay. All right. So, what year did you? What year was your first year at Miami? What was your first year?
1987.
1987. Okay. All right. So, okay, that 87 team obviously they won the national championship that year. The first game was against Florida. Talk about that first game against Florida. That team won 31-4. Do you have any recollections of that matchup?
Actually, when they came to pick up the travel squad from the dorms, I kind of shed a tear because, not only was Florida, it was down to Miami and Florida, but, I had two guys, I had, multiple guys that I knew on Florida's team because I was always up there. And they give you a girl host as well as a player host. I ended up dating my girl host all through the summer. And actually, that game was the game in which she came down, and I guess that's the point we realized it wasn't going to work. But that was an emotional game. But I was glad we whooped them. I enjoyed that
matchup because both teams were ranked at that time. Talk about that game, bro. Your recollection of that game going to Arkansas
Yeah,
and winning 51-7.
yeah. That was a reunion. That was a going home party for Jimmy because he went to Arkansas and he tried to put his foot down their throat. He did not let up, and they just kind of got overwhelmed and it just steamrolled.
Okay, the next game was against Florida State. This was the game of the year in '87. 26-25. Michael Irvin scored the go-ahead touchdown. Had two touchdowns in that game. Talk about that game because Miami was down, 19-3, and the squad was able to rally back. Talk about that comeback in Tallahassee.
Yeah, actually, even though I was red-shirted, Coach Johnson allowed the red shirts if we showed up, if we drove up, he let us dress out. So me and my roommates, we were all on the sidelines for the game, and that was a that was that was a great game. That was right there with the wide right game that I played in my senior year. There was a situation. We were down 19-3 at one point, like you said, and Mike lined up on our sideline, and Dion was on him, and Dion was like, "Yo, why did you still run your route so hard? The game is over." And he looked at Dion and he looked at the sideline. He said, "Because I'm a Miami Hurricane and I never give up." And then, ironically, 2 plays later, Dion wasn't on him, and I think they were playing zone coverage. And DJ Dodge took a bad angle, and Mike took one to the house. And Melvin Bratton scored a touchdown, and Steve Orr threw a touchdown to Melvin Bratton. And I mean, we just made a miraculous comeback, and then we had to hold them off at the end, and it was a great game,
Yeah,
great rivalry.
yeah. And I'm gonna fast forward to another rival that you played that year was Notre Dame. You won 24-0. And that was a big game because Notre Dame was trying to get back to being relevant, and they were. They were ranked in the top 10 when you beat them that in that game 24-0. Talk about that game.
Well, they were a year away, to be honest with you. They just like the only offense they really had was Tim Brown, and they pumped him in pregame, and it was over. I mean, they couldn't throw the ball, they couldn't pass block, they couldn't run the ball, and they had a hard time getting the ball to Tim Brown. He was completely shut down, and it was just a great game for us.
Okay.
Now they used it as fuel, and they came back the next year, but yeah, that wasn't even really a game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you got a closer game the following week against another ranked opponent in South Carolina. This team had Todd Ellis. Sterling Sharp was on this
Yeah,
team. Talk about that game. You won 20-16.
yeah, Sterling Sharp took it to us. They had a lot of talent on offense. They had him. They had another guy by the name of Ryan Bethea who was bigger and longer than Sharp, and the quarterback was was really good. He ended up getting drafted by Denver. Didn't really, have a great pro career, but Ellis was exceptional in college, and they were running basically, I guess what you call today the uh, Mike Leach's offense. They called it the run and shoot back then, but it's under new name now. But the thing that made him so tough was Sterling Sharp. Even though he was big, he played in the slot most of the time, and he was just a monster. I mean, he made tough catches. He run people over, and for whatever reason, our offense wasn't clicking that night. They blitzed a lot, and we had some problems, but we figured it out. We took home a close victory, and we beat them in the fight before that. So, it was a two wins that night.
Yeah, so now the national championship game is on the horizon. You play Oklahoma, number one versus number two. You win that game by score of 20-14. You're a national champion as a redshirt freshman. Talk about that experience in that game.
Yeah, that was the climax of a very interesting freshman year. Oklahoma, even though it was '87, their entire, offensive line, even though some of them weren't listed at 300, they were all 300 pounds, and the backups were pretty big too. So they had a guy that didn't even start on the O line, get drafted
Okay, so you're national champions. Now you're going to the '88 season. Play Florida State. Now, what's infamous about that game is before the game, Seminoles did that rap video, the Seminole rap. Talk about that experience. Jimmy Johnson playing that videotape for the team before that game, kicked off on Saturday. Talk about that videotape of the Seminole rap.
Well, Jimmy, basically, he played the video and he basically told guys, hey, we're gonna shut that up. We're gonna set a trap for them. We're gonna tell them all week how good they are, and we're just happy to be in the game. And then we're gonna come out on Saturday and we're gonna take it to them. It was a national television audience, and we were fired up, and they just didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, they were preseason #1. Your squad was defending
Yeah.
champions, #6 in the country, so you won 31-0. You definitely made a big statement in that game. Then the next week you played against Michigan. You had to come from behind. We down 30-14. Steve Walsh did his thing. Cleveland Gary had a big game, and Paul Welter hits a game-winning field goal. Talk about that game, winning 31-30 in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yeah, that was a pretty exciting game because they had a week off and they basically watched our game against Florida State, and they kind of changed a bunch of stuff that they would normally do. So they broke all the tendencies, and it took us 3 quarters to figure it out. And then when those guys, when they figured it out, they made a furious comeback, and Carlos hit a field goal, and it was just one of those games where it basically tells you don't ever give up. And, that kind of was one of those things that, was a statement about my time at UM. They taught you that you can do anything. You just can't give up. Just keep working.
Now the game of the year that year was Notre Dame, Miami. It was the Catholics versus Convicts. I want to talk about that game.
Say that again?
No, I want to talk about the Catholics versus Convicts game between Notre Dame and Miami. That was the game I want to talk about next. That game was controversial with the fumble and stuff like that. Talk about that game.
They stole my 4th ring from me. If we would have had it replay in '88, Cleveland Gary would have, that fumble would have been reversed, and we would have ended up winning that game and winning the national title. It was a good game. There was a lot of tension, and then the fact that you have both teams go through the same tunnel to get to their locker rooms. It was bound to be some off the field shenanigans. But that was a great game, man. I got to give Notre Dame credit for rebounding from the year before. I think we fueled them, and then they ended up winning the national title, even though I don't think they really deserved it.
Okay, so run the table the rest of the season. The games I want to talk about as far as like the regular season is the LSU game. You went to LSU, and they were ranked, I believe, at that time. You beat them 44-3. Talk about that game.
Yeah, they just were overmatched. That's a great atmosphere, though. They had a big old Bengal tiger sitting in the cage right outside the visitors' locker room. It was raining that night, but they just, from a schematic standpoint, they were just outmatched. They had a lot of talent, but it was just wasn't even a real tough game. I mean, it's kind of surprising now you look at it because they had so many guys go to the pros, and Mike Archer, he was on the UM staff that won the '83 title, but yeah, that was just, but it was fun because you got to quiet the crowd and the Bengal Tiger, great atmosphere. LSU has a great atmosphere, great place to play, great place to beat a team.
Yeah, that was the worst loss at the time. That was the worst home loss since 1948. You jumped on them, and they were ranked #11 in the country. So that's the thing about those Hurricane teams in the '80s, that you knew how to win on the road, you knew how to get it done on the road, and you had a 36-game regular season winning streak until you lost to Notre Dame. I think you had like a 20-game road winning streak before you lost that game to Notre Dame in '88. So it showed you that anywhere Miami knew how to win on an opponent's home turf. All right. The next game I want to talk about is Arkansas. Played them the following year, the previous
Mm-hmm.
year. This year it was much more closer. You only win 18-16. Very low scoring game. Talk about that game.
Yeah, they came in with a great game plan. And Barry Foster ran the ball really well. He had a lot of yards that game. Had an 80-yard touchdown run. Um, you know, if I'm not mistaken, they were Southwest Conference champions, and we ended up beating that year, I think, five conference champions because LSU, Arkansas, uh, uh, somebody, Florida State, I think they were in the ACC then. Or no, they were still independent, but as it turned out, we beat five conference champions that year, and Arkansas, that was one of their better teams, and they were big. They had a 360-pound right guard, Freddie Childers, who was a second-round draft pick, and they ran behind him quite a bit. And if you get out of your gaps, they had enough speed to take it to the house. But once again, we figured out a way to win.
Yeah, Carlos Welter hit a 20-yard field goal with 5:38 left in the game, and yeah, it was a
Yeah,
very close game. Yeah, Barry Foster had over 100 yards. He had 103 yards rushing on 8 carries. Yeah, that was a very close game. All right, the next game, we're gonna go to the Orange Bowl. Nebraska, you beat Nebraska 23-3. That was unfortunately Jimmy Johnson's last game as a coach. Talk about that game and also talk about his the statement that he made as far as like telling your team that you was on that he was leaving, go coach, somewhere else. Talk about that experience. Hearing him, leave and go coach the Dallas Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson.
well, we didn't know it was leaving first of all, but um, it was pretty disgusting that we were going to the Orange Bowl, and the rings that we got for that game were not very good.
Yeah.
And they were, didn't even put our names on them. That was the kind of mentality we had, and then we're playing for a championship. It wasn't even working. Um, but he came into that game. He wanted to send a message to Nebraska, and we did. We sent a message to them um, early on. I remember Roger Thomas bet never read $10,000. And he was going to have a certain amount of stats. He ended up losing his money.
Wow. Wow. You said Broderick
But they were
Thomas.
never in
You
that
said?
game. Say what?
You said Broderick Thomas.
Yes, Roger Thomas.
He's the one that played for Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, with the Cowboys.
Yeah. Okay. I remember him. Okay. All right. So, yeah. Yeah. But talk about Jimmy Johnson. That was just he had such a great career with the Miami. He won one national championship, but he could have won more. But talk about him leaving to go
Well,
coach
he
the
was
Cowboys.
looking for another challenge, and he found it in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I think, if his best friend or his roommate from college hadn't got a job, he probably would have still been with us another couple of years. But it was an opportunity of a lifetime. You can't really get upset with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Dallas Cowboys, America's team. How can you turn that down? Had more success with Dallas. Won 2 Super Bowls. Could have won more if he didn't, leave Dallas. But he was such a great coach at Miami because he really changed it. When he got there, they became, the Renegades. They became that swagger. You know what I'm saying? That they could have won more championships if he would have stayed.
Oh,
That without question.
well, they blew 86. They actually blew 85 as well, and then we got 88 stolen from us. So realistically, he probably could have came away with 4 titles.
Yeah. All right. So fast forward to the '89 season, 1989. You got a new coach in Dennis Erickson. First and foremost, what did you think of that choice for Miami to go in that direction and hire Dennis Erickson as the head coach in 1989?
Yeah, well, Coach Jefferson came in and he had a different style offense, so he didn't mess with the defense, and I think that was the key. And he just was adaptable to what we did, and he was guy, and the receivers, they loved it because of that ball boy. Even though we only had one running back, they got the ball quite a bit, so everybody was happy.
Yeah,
We had.
Sorry.
Say it again.
No, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Well, I was just gonna say, we knew we knew to win. And, he came in and kind of learned from us too. So it was a win-win situation.
Yeah, and the thing about Dennis Erickson, he's very revolutionary with the offense because he had that one back offense with three wide receivers, out on the outside, and making I think the running back would go in motion, like the formations and that aspect that was so revolutionary for college football. It's a very influential offense, and so it came out to be the right choice. He had, like I said, he had more success than Jimmy Johnson. He won 2 national championships. Now, yes, he had Jimmy Johnson's players, but at the same time, when you look at the fact that his ability to run the offense and store that offense for the webs that he will have to deal with, as a coach, that was amazing. So let's get into the first game. You win 51-3. Talk about that game in Wisconsin, playing the Big Ten opponent, winning 51-3. That was the first game in Erickson's career.
Yeah, we scored a lot of points. We still made a lot of mistakes, but you could see the potential, especially since everybody got a chance to play, so everybody was happy. Um, Later on we ended up. It was good that Gino got a chance to play because he ended up having to play extensive minutes for about 4 weeks. But the offense, you could just tell it was a tough offense to stop, especially with all of our athletic ability. And, that offense now is the base offense for what you see today in college football.
Yeah, you so revolutionary. That's what I'm saying. Like with Erickson, it was the right choice because, like you said, it was very influential. Like for other offenses that you see today, because of what he brought to the table with the offense, that one back offensive, sets. That the way he implemented the offense like that. Three wide receivers. I utilize the tight end. Running back going in motion, like his formations are just so innovative for college football, and that's what made Erickson a great coach. Is that his offensive mastermind, stood out among the rest, as far as like coaches. So now I want to talk about the Notre Dame game. Obviously, that was a game where it was like revenge for what happened the year before. We falling short by 1 point, 27-10. You didn't allow a offensive touchdown. Only touchdown that you allowed was Ned Brokar's interception for a touchdown. Talk about that game winning 27-10.
Well, they were coming in with high ranking as the defending national champions, and once again they got overwhelmed. Playing in the OB, they just it was a bad matchup for them. We were quicker than them, and they didn't have a lot of experience seeing that offense. And you could tell. And then Randall gets the third and 44. And it was just an avalanche after that point. But Lou Holtz, to his credit, with each loss against us, he learned something, and he came back the next year, and he had his own super player. But yeah, they were a solid ball club, and we just overwhelmed them. The execution was at almost perfect level, and there's really nothing they could do.
Yeah, they was the #1 team in the country most of the year. They had a 23-game winning streak, and Dale Dawkins, played a big game. He had 2 touchdown catches. Stephen McGuire scored a touchdown. Randall Hill, man, that was a great catch. I think it was third down 43, but either way, that was a great catch. To make a catch like that, it's just that confidence. Third and long, real long, and for him to, for him to execute Craig Erickson going to it was just a big time play, big time drive, and yes, 27-10. That was just a dominant performance. And now you go to the Alabama, the Alabama matchup in 1990 Sugar Bowl, win a national championship for your yourself, it's your second national championship. Talk about that experience winning a second national championship, winning 33-25 against Alabama.
Well, that game was closer than it should have been. They kind of, scored touchdowns at the end, but um, we pretty much were in control the whole game. But they didn't, their offense was really tricky. They had a lot of misdirection in their own right. They were using shotgun. Um, but and to be honest with you, it was more like a home game for them because there was, maybe 75, 80,000 people in the stadium, and probably 70 to 75,000 of them were Alabama fans. But you know, we got out to early lead. We kept our foot on the gas, and we just withheld their charge, and we brought that second title home. And so Erickson had one now, Jimmy had one, and Senator Burger had one. So you're passing out championships like you do welfare checks to the coaches. But that was a good game, and it was in a great city. So once we won the national title, everybody hung out that night in New Orleans and celebrated.
Okay, so now it's a new decade, 1990s here, defending national champions. Came to the 1990 year as preseason number one. And that was a very wild and wacky year. A lot of teams that were number one, couldn't hold on to that number one ranking, and you was the number one team in the country, but you lose to BYU, unfortunately, 28-21. Talk about that unfortunate loss. Actually, you became a first-time starter, right, in 1990, right? You was a starter.
No, we rotated. I didn't start. Well, Claude Jones started. Darren Handy was the center.
Okay.
But we were 10 deep, so we played 8 to 10 guys. I didn't really play much that first game because honestly they just outcoached us. I mean, hate to say it, we went with a game plan on offense with the offensive line, and I think we all kind of took them a little lightly because we had a rotation plan for the offensive line, and the receivers, we had a bunch of young receivers, and they came out and on defense they changed up their scheme. They did some stunts that we've never seen them do before, and Ty Detmer had the game of his life. And on top of that, getting used to the altitude is something else also because playing flag football the day before that we normally do flag football, or touch football. Guys were running a couple of routes and they were windy because of that altitude. And I think, fourth quarter, the next day, I don't think we had fully grasped all the stuff we needed to do to have take advantage of our advantage.
He had a big game. He had 406 yards, 3 touchdowns. So that just catapulted him to win the Heisman because of games like that, beat the number one team in the country. Yeah, he won the Heisman
on national television.
Yeah, on ESPN. I think that game was on ESPN. And
yeah, it was.
Yeah. Yeah, he won the Heisman. He finished with 1,482 votes. Rocky Ishmael was second. I mean, he could have won the Heisman, but they gave it to Detmer for 1990. So, but you come back, you beat California, you got back to your winning ways. Talk about winning in Cal Berkeley by a score of 52-24.
Yeah, that was, training day. Everybody gets a little piece of time. We're on our craft, getting ready for a tougher game.
Okay. Yeah, that was a big win, just bouncing back and handling your business, winning that by that kind of wide margin of victory. It's definitely was necessary to bounce back and win 52-24. So beat Florida State 31-22, ran the ball extremely well. McGuire and Conley had big games. Talk about that win at the Orange Bowl, winning against Florida State 31-22. Because the previous year say in '89, despite your squad winning the national championship, 24-10, you lost to Florida State. That only loss, and then you were able to run the table. Talk about getting revenge and beating Florida State the next year, 1990, 31-22.
Yeah, that game ended up just like sort of like how the Alabama game did, that we dominated. Steve McGuire just basically, my free safety was from not only from my high school, but played on my high school team, and he just kept getting run over. And we had the game in hand, and we kind of let them ease back in and make it a little tougher at the end. At the end, but we controlled the game pretty much the whole time. They actually used both quarterbacks, Brad Johnson and Casey Weldon, and they were basically like looking in the mirror. They were similar to us, but we were just a little bit better.
Yeah, McGuire had 176 yards rushing, a touchdown, 31 carries. Leonard Conley had 144 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. You did most everything damage on the ground. You ran for 334 yards on the ground. Kind of rare because Miami's always been known for passing the ball, but they ran the ball very well and ended Florida State's nation's longest winning streak at 14 games. So that was a big win, obviously, whenever it comes against the Florida State Seminoles. So, obviously, unfortunately, 2 weeks later, you lose to Notre Dame 29-20. You were number 2 in the country. They were number 6 in the country. It was like basically, elimination game. Whoever won this game would keep their title hopes alive. But unfortunately, your squad lost to them 29-20. A game that was strange because defensively, they did their job. They gave up 5 field goals to Craig Hendrick. Rocky Ishmael, turned the kickoff 94 yards, and Ronnie Culver caught a screen pass from Rick Meyer. But defensively, you did your job. Just offensively, you just came up short. Didn't capitalize on opportunities. Talk about that unfortunate loss to the Fighting Irish Notre Dame, 29-20.
Yeah, we we I think with Notre Dame, we just honestly couldn't stop Rocky. He was on a whole nother level. He deserved all the accolades he got, and he was the X factor. And on top of that, Craig Harrison, I think, played one of the worst games of his career. I think he was trying to force it to do too much. Maybe Heisman talk was, he was just getting to him a little bit. But yeah, we should have won that game. But once again, you got to give credit to Lou Holtz because he was able to make adjustments, and he had those guys believing in everything he said. So my head to go out to him and his staff.
Yeah, Rocket.
Had to go off, excuse me.
Yeah, the Rocket. He had 100 yards rushing, 13 carries. He also had overall, for all-purpose yards. He was such an all-around player, 268 yards in all-purpose yards. So this is his ability to just do different things, man. He just, like you said, he just a special player. He finished second in the Heisman running. Could have won the Heisman instead of Ty Dever that they gave it to him instead. But he's just a great, great player. Okay, fast forward to the next game we want to discuss. Yeah, the Cotton Bowl. Yeah, Texas, man, 46-3. The infamous Cotton Bowl, because that was known for a lot of penalties and dancing and all that, celebrations. Talk about the week leading up to playing Texas in the Cotton Bowl as your squad win 46-3.
Yeah, they deserved everything they got. Um, they took subliminal shots at us at all of the functions we had. They put stuff in the newspaper, and sometimes you've been lifting your weights and eating your weeds, but you really shouldn't poke the bear. You in tip top shape because when he wakes up, he's gonna be tough. And
Jefferson had 4 touchdown passes. Um, Despite, offensively, he did great. He had 16 penalties, 202 yards. Which defense forced 5 turnovers. Wesley Carroll had a very underrated receiver. Wesley Carroll had 135 yards receiving on 8 catches. Russell Maryland had 3 sacks. So it was just a dominant performance. And Texas was number 3 in the country, and you beat them 46-3. That's one of the more impressive wins ever in bowl history because your squad was number 4, they were number 3, and you beat them like that. I mean, that's rare you see something like that happen in college football, especially in a bowl game. And that's just impressive.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. But nowadays it's gonna happen even more because you never know what's going on with your opponents. I mean, you got kids they about to opt out and all that. But yeah, we sent a message, and then the NCAA sent us a message the preseason following going into my senior year that they were gonna let us be us. And I mean, I don't know. I can't necessarily say I was upset with them at the time. I was, but I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to make kids into men and women, and we come along and make it seem like no matter what happens, everything's gonna be okay. So it's a power struggle, and obviously we lost.
Yeah, so now this year, the final year in '91, we didn't win that championship in 1990, but now it's '91. It's all about national championship or bust. And you start off with you join the Big East, and then you wear black cleats. As far as like during the season, something that was new, man, because you always wore white cleats. So you beat Arkansas 31-3. Talk about that first game. That's when Gene Shredder threw a 99-yard touchdown pass to Horace Copeland. And that just set the tone for that game, and just it was just dominance in that
Well,
game.
that touchdown pass was a thing of beauty, but me and Clark busted the coverage. We ended up letting the nose guard go because one of us blocked out opposite of his headgear, and then the other one blocked out on the same side of his headgear. By the time he got there, it was too late. Gino had already thrown a ball, but he did knock him into the goalpost, Stanton. But Horace caught the ball on stride, and that was it. Um, that was a game of we had lost 12 guys to the NFL the year before, and we needed some seasoning. Yeah, made us better all year.
Okay, next game. This is definitely a monumental game at the time. Houston, man. Houston, there was a program that had Andre Ware. He won the highest